Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Rachel Godoyne, and I am on the outreach team here at Monterey One Water, which you may hear us reference as M1W. We know that conversations about rates are important to the community, and we do appreciate you being here for this public information session to learn more and to ask questions. Right. So tonight's goal is to help explain more about Monterey One Water's wastewater system, why we're proposing new rates now and what those rates would support, and how the rate setting process will work moving forward. Tonight is for information only. No decisions will be made. The public hearing that our board will host to consider the proposed rates will be held Monday, June 29th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And tonight is an opportunity to hear directly from staff and from our subject matter experts before that hearing. After the presentation, we'll open the floor for questions, and staff will also be available after if you'd prefer to speak one-on-one. So wastewater service is something that most of us use every single day, even though most of our system operates underground or behind the scenes. So every time we shower, wash dishes, do the laundry, flush the toilet, that used water goes into your local sewer collection system, which is operated by the cities and districts within the Monterey One Water service area. Monterey One Water is then responsible for conveying it through our regional system to our regional treatment plant, where we treat it before safely reintroducing it into the environment. And I actually have a prop for this next part. So this is my 1 gallon jug here. So on average, Monterey One Water treats 17 million gallons of used water each day. And this work is essential to protecting public health, supporting our communities, and protecting the environment.
So is this working? You can tell. Okay. So thank you for being here. My name is Paul Shudo. I'm the executive officer at Monterey One Water. And what we're going to have, you see a number of staff here. We're going to start talking about the reasons why, like why rates need to be changed. And part of that goes to aging infrastructure. And Matt Thompson, our director of engineering, will talk about our treatment facilities, conveyance, pump stations, et cetera, and the amount of investment we will be doing. And, oh, okay. And obviously, our O&M costs, our operations and maintenance, between electrical going up. Our electrical bill is a little over $9 million per year. So every increase substantially hits our budget. Chemicals, and Jose, our our plant manager, will be going over that. Chemicals are about $8 million a year. So obviously all these increases that we've seen substantially hit our budget. Regulation and compliance. As you well know, the state and locals entities, we have a lot of regulations that we need to meet. And Sarah will be talking about that in terms of how we meet it and what that truly means. And then lastly, sort of planning ahead. So we try to do a 10-year capital improvement plan, investment in our infrastructure, as well as a 10-year financial plan. So building on that and then looking back at what we feel we need. So how rates are developed. We hired a rate consultant, I think it was back in August timeframe, that worked with us. And first thing is they looked at all the data, like what is our historical expenditures, what is needed from a capital perspective, and of course, the regulatory thing I just mentioned. Then they generated what that revenue requirement is moving into the future, that cost of service analysis. with our CFO and financial staff, developed that revenue requirement, which then goes into the rate structure. So certainly residential, commercial, multifamily, those costs are proportionally allocated across our 63,000 customers. I'm just going to touch on something you mentioned, and not to preempt your questions, but one of the things our board did look at back in March was our rate structure. So historically, like since we started, it's been a flat rate structure for residences. So all of you with homes in the area, it's a flat rate of $54 per month. Your bills are going to be different because we put bills out every 2 months. So that's 108. And then Seaside County Sanitation District adds on 1650 or something like that. So your bills are closer to $141 probably. That 54, so just for residences, whether you have a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, or a 10 bedroom, 10 bath, or whether you have 10 people in it or 1 person in it, it's a flat rate. Our board voted to continue with that for a couple different reasons. One is we did press the consultant on, can we do it on fixture count? How many faucets you have and things like that, or square footage. Neither of those were legally allowable within the state of California. They were challenged in court, and you can't do it. You can do those for capacity fees. So if you're going to go build a home, it could be based on fixture count or square footage. The only two that legally in California we can do is a fixed rate like we're at, or based on water usage. So what's that look like? And Steve will get into the water usage thing, and something we're taking to our board in June as well, a low water use variance for people like yourself that may have 1 person in a home. So we would look at water usage in, say, November through March, in theory, when you're not irrigating. So it's all indoor use, which would then predominantly come to us for treatment, and the rate would be based on that. Once again, the program's being developed. It will go to our board June 29th. The comment was made, can't we get that water use data just electronically? Well, with all of the water purveyors in our service area, which reaches from Moss Landing down through the Salinas Valley and, of course, the entire peninsula, we've run into a brick wall when we've asked for that data, much having to do with privacy issues from some of the private companies, and then that data conversion. We're still looking into it because we heard loud and clear last night and through other. I'm sorry. We had one of these last night in Salinas. So we heard that as well last night. So we are considering it. On the coming up with the rates, now we're in that public process, which is related to Proposition 218, where we sent notices to everyone. I think some of you may have them there. Of intending to set a maximum rate increase into the future. Each year, our board will look at it and say, do we really want to increase to this amount or not? So there's a couple decision points there before rates are increased. So this is the main point here of what the 5-year proposed increase is that came out of the rate study. You see right now it's $54 a month. We're proposing for next fiscal year, so 26-27, for it to be $57.27 per month for residentials. Future years, the upper limit the board would be allowed to do is 8%, 8%, 9%, 9%. And every year, the board will vote on that. To echo what Rachel has already said, the board hearing for this year is June 29th. There is a public hearing, receive comments, and then the board votes. We are in that public process right now where where you can send in protests if you disagree with this or any part of it. It does need to have certain things like name, address, APN, and a signature. And then we report out during that public hearing how many protests we've received. Thank you. APN is assessor's parcel number, which can be found on your bill. Let's see what else. I think that's about it, right? Next.
So we've talked about the proposed rates and how they were developed, but an important part of tonight's conversation is sharing more about what those rates support. So I'm now going to ask some of my colleagues to join me on the stage who are subject matter experts in operating, maintaining, and meeting compliance of our facilities. So wastewater service depends on a wide range of people and systems working together every day. That includes operators who keep treatment systems running 24 hours a day, water quality and compliance staff helping meet regulatory requirements, engineers and project teams planning infrastructure improvements, and finance staff working to support long-term system planning and proportionate cost recovery. So to help connect these areas of work to the proposed rates, we're now going to hear briefly from each subject matter experts across the different areas of Monterey One Water.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. My name is Jose Guzman. I am the operations manager for Monterey One Water, and I lead the operations team, which manages a complex facility infrastructure and monitors biological and chemical treatment processes. In addition, they make adjustments to equipment to ensure that the wastewater we treat meets strict environmental and regulatory standards prior to being returned to the environment. So we've been sharing the role that Monterey One Water plays in the treatment and collection of wastewater. I'm going to go into a little more detail of what that entails. Wastewater treatment is a 24-hour operation. It's a continuous flow that comes to our facility. And the first step is staff. So it does require highly trained and certified operation staff, mechanics, utility staff, instrumentation techs, lab staff, engineering, and that's just to name a few. In addition, power is a significant cost for running all the equipment required to convey and treat wastewater. And in addition to electricity, there's also the chemical costs that have been on the rise pretty much every year. So those are all the type of expenses that your rates help pay for. In addition, the proactive maintenance of equipment, such as pumps, and to a more important extent, monitoring equipment to ensure that the treatment process is doing what it's supposed to be doing, is a significant cost. And your rates help us develop a proactive approach to maintaining this equipment and replacing it before we have catastrophic failures to ensure the successful and reliable treatment of the community's wastewater. And the approach of being proactive in capital investment also helps prevent future more costly reactive maintenance or emergency repairs. I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Stevens. I'm the Environmental and Regulatory Compliance Supervisor at Monterey One Water. I'm responsible for ensuring that Monterey One Water complies with air, water, and hazardous materials regulations. In addition, I oversee the source control team, who's responsible for regulating discharges to the conveyance system and ensuring that wastewater influent to the regional treatment plant is safe. Wastewater treatment facilities operate under strict regulatory requirements that are designed to protect public health and the environment. Meeting these mandatory standards requires ongoing monitoring, reporting, inspection, specialized equipment, and certified staff. As regulations evolve over time, wastewater agencies like Monterey One Water must update their processes, equipment, and operational practices to maintain reliable treatment performance and remain compliant. This work ensures that the wastewater we receive is properly treated before it is safely reintroduced to the environment. While much of this work occurs behind the scenes, maintaining compliance is a critical aspect of what we do to protect water quality, public health, and the communities that we serve. And with that, I'll pass it over to Matt.
All right. Good evening, folks. And hello. My name is Matt Thompson. I am the Director of Engineering at Monterey One Water. I lead a small team of professional engineers who are responsible for delivering large projects to improve our infrastructure. I refer to it as our infrastructure because Monterey One Water is a public agency. So all of its assets are ultimately owned by you, citizens who pay for wastewater service. Providing reliable wastewater service requires a lot of infrastructure. This includes pumping stations, pipelines, treatment facilities. This infrastructure is a major investment. Monterey One Water maintains well over $1 billion in infrastructure assets. It is essential for us to be good stewards of these assets. We do this by scheduling a series of projects to rehabilitate, replace, and upgrade the infrastructure. Our goal is to maintain the infrastructure in good working condition so it does not fail prematurely, cause emergencies, or become an expensive problem for future generations. We also want to keep up with evolving regulations. We have numerous projects planned in the coming years. We've carefully prioritized and scheduled these projects to spread the costs over time, to even out annual expenditures, and provide time to secure financing for some of the more expensive projects. This helps to minimize the need for drastic changes to wastewater rates over time. We have projects to improve the reliability of the pump stations that deliver sewage from each community to the regional treatment plant. For example, we currently have under construction one large project to upgrade two of our largest sewage pump stations in the cities of Monterey and here in Seaside. We also have an electrical project under construction at the regional treatment plant that will greatly improve electrical reliability, enable us to purchase more renewable energy from the neighboring regen landfill, and reduce our dependence on PG&E electrical power. It'll also help us to control electrical power costs over time. We recently completed a master plan for a comprehensive upgrade of the regional treatment plant. The plant is aging and much of it has reached the end of its life. We plan to upgrade to a much more efficient process that is capable of complying with evolving water quality regulations. The project will add 30 or 40 years of new life to the facility. We're also preparing to begin construction of renewable energy improvements. This includes a new system to upgrade our biogas to a new renewable energy supply for the Monterey Peninsula. We'll be injecting renewable natural gas into PG&E's natural gas supply pipeline. Project also includes new generators to efficiently produce clean electrical power. This will greatly reduce the environmental impact of our operation. All these projects will work together to help ensure Monterey One Water always provides reliable wastewater service and remains compliant with evolving regulations. Thank you for hearing about our infrastructure projects. I'll be available later if you have any questions.
Good evening. My name is Johanna Vargas. I'm the Grants and Procurements Manager for Monterey One Water. My team manages the grants. We ensure compliance with the state and federal guidelines. And on the procurement side, we support the acquisition of goods and services to ensure the effective use of agency resources. As Paul discussed earlier, the rate study helps help us understand the cost of providing wastewater services and plan for future needs. One of the primary goals of this rate study is to ensure that the rates are aligned with the actual cost of providing wastewater services to our customers. Different types of customers categories use the wastewater system in different ways. For example, a restaurant like El Migueleño or Chili's or a hotel places different demands on the system that a residential customer will. Because of this, that study looks at the factors such as the wastewater demand, wastewater flow, infrastructure usage, and the overall cost of providing the service. The proposed rates are intended to cover this cost proportionally while supporting long-term financial stability. Why is long-term financial stability important? It's important because wastewater infrastructure requires ongoing maintenance, replacement, and operating support throughout many years. At Monterey One Water, we're carefully managing our costs through budgeting, long-term financial planning, and we're actively seeking grants, low-cost interest loans, and any other type of funding that is available. We also set up a customer assistance program to help our customers that need help paying their wastewater bill, and I'll be happy to provide more information about the program after the presentation. Thank you for being here tonight.
All right. Thank you all. I'll go. All right, so thank you all for sharing a little bit about your responsibilities with our customers tonight. To see and learn more about the systems you heard about, I am very excited to share that Monterey One Water now offers a 360-degree virtual tour of our regional treatment plant. It's an interactive experience that will take you behind the scenes of our infrastructure, including areas that only our certified specialists can access. So the link and code is on the screen for you to check out, and I hope you will. It's a really great way to enhance your understanding and kind of see firsthand the extent of the infrastructure that this team is responsible for ensuring operates reliably within regulatory compliance and supports the community.
So just to wrap up here before we get to questions from all of you, to reiterate, the public hearing is June 29th at our regularly scheduled board meeting for comments, questions, and actually talking to the board if you would like. You have all the stuff up there in terms of where you can learn about more information. I wanted to mention a couple things just to put it in context. So when Matt was saying, Thompson, our engineering director, that we have projects lined out, and there's a number of pictures over there. It's to the tune of, we have about $1.5 billion worth of infrastructure out there. When he's saying we're getting towards the end of the useful life, we have about a $540 million capital expenditure plan over the next 10 years. So ballpark, on average, $50 million a year. That is much of what's driving our entire budget, which you can see over here in terms of where our funding goes. So I think that was about all I was wanting to clarify here. We will stick around to answer questions individually, but certainly feel free to ask questions now. What I might do is, if you have hands raised, I'll give you the microphone so people online can hear the question as well, if that's okay.
And Paul, just really quickly before we get started in the room, if anybody on Zoom has a question, please use the Q&A feature to submit your question, and we'll be able to read them out and address those as well. But we can go ahead and get started in the room first.
Awesome.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Susan Schiavone, Seaside. I have a couple questions that are related to the bill. When I saw the possibly $80 a month, I kind of took a deep breath as a possibility, but I'm glad to hear the board will have the opportunity to vote on that on a yearly basis to see if they really need to do that. Okay, so related to that, if it's that high and you're on a fixed income, that could possibly be $160 every 2 months, close to it. Are there an ability for people to pay monthly? Do you have to come to the office, or how could they set that up if it's a possibility? Because just at that level, I can see where fixed income individual is going to be a chunk of money out of their budget that they might want to spend on food instead. But so that would be one of my questions. And then the other is, are you still utilizing the housing and community development income levels that are related to lower income as some of your evaluation for assistance? And if you are, will you be amending them as they are amended at the state level to accommodate that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. So first, the $80 that is frightening is the maximum amount that the bill would go to in 2031. But you're absolutely right. The board has that decision every year on what to raise. Now, we also do a 1-year budget. So each year we're reevaluating. So like Johanna said, if we get $50 million in grants to pay for a project, we're going to reevaluate the budget based on the current information. What's good about, in my opinion, about elected officials and boards is looking at the more global issues like the economy. I've been associated with boards in the past that even though they could have increased things up to 10%, they opted for 2% just because of the way the economy was at that period of time. In terms of can we pay monthly, and as well as the customer assistance program, I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm probably going to try to kick it out to one of you to expand on it a little bit and what we have moving on in the future. So, customer assistance program. So we do have a customer assistance program, and it's based on the criteria for low income. We're actually asking our board on the 29th as well as part of the budget to fund it a little more than we have in the past, because we realize that a potential increase is a big hit. That the income levels do change. Oh, like I said, I don't know if, can you speak to that? Okay, I'm gonna ask you to speak to that in a second. Oh, do I have your microphone? Okay. And then I was mentioning to Lucy here that we have a relatively old software system, our enterprise research program, that we're currently transitioning to a new one, which will give us much more flexibility in what we can do from an online perspective, hopefully with billing and other things. That's not due to be in place until February of 2027. We've been working on and taking, the finance module, the HR module, purchasing, and so on down the line. But if we could touch on that as well, I don't know. You got that one?
All right. So just to repeat, I'm going to address the questions related to monthly billing or billing options, I guess. And so it would be monthly billing and then opportunities maybe kind of moving forward related to billing and continuing on, as Paul was saying, about this change we're having internally with our system. So specifically related to billing, we do have one of our customer service reps here. Hi, Tiff, in the back. And Tiff can give more specifics because right now we are pretty limited by our system. But I'm really excited to share that probably about early 2027, the customer billing system is going to be supported by a much more robust digital platform. And when we're moving through that right now and we're learning about all of the new features it can have. And so at that time, we do hope to be able to roll out to the customer more bill payment options, including maybe something like that. Right now, we do have some flexibility in helping you with from a payment standpoint. If you wanted to pay, it kind of gets credited to your account. But the billing system we have requires us to send you a paper bill every other month, and it might show credit or payment, or might show you only owe 1 month if you've been paying monthly. So there is some flexibility, but we're a little bit limited right now. But definitely check in with Tiff at the end, who can give you a little bit more specifics of how we're trying to work around our current system that's so limited, with hopes that come early 2027, we'll be rolling out a communications plan with the customer, sharing with you the exciting new features related to billing specifically. And not only do we update it annually based on new levels, our board is the one that sets those levels and made that selection of where we have ours. And so we are updating it now, but we also collect data, and we've been talking with customers enrolling in the program and on some of the limitations they've heard. So actually, when we bring the customer assistance program to the board this month, we're actually going to be asking them to make some we're going to be recommending they make slight modifications to the program to expand eligibility, so that it's easier for more people can qualify, and easier for them to actually enroll.
Okay, so my question is, how do all these new housing tracts that we are building, these very nice $1.5 million homes, affect the infrastructure? And is that why we are having to make some of the upgrades and improvements? Because then doesn't that kind of equate to us having to pay for infrastructure to accommodate all these new homes?
So great question. I'm going to answer the second one first. Is no, because of the added flow, that's not the reason we need to upgrade this. If you came out for tours, Jose, any of us could take you to some of the little round circle things there, and the concrete's just so old you can literally stick your hand into the concrete because it's so deteriorated. Some of the metallic rotating equipment is rusting and have had to be repaired. But with all the new homes, and for our service area, it's primarily in Marina, the former Fort Ord area. There's also the future development area out in Salinas that has 3 specific areas. What I've been told is it's like 5,000 homes each going in over the next 15 years. What they do is, I may have referenced this when we were talking earlier, a capacity fee. So if I build a home, there's this existing sewer system out there that has capacity for me. I have to buy into that. So there's a different study called a capacity fee study that tries to identify what the cost of that system is, the incremental cost that they have to buy in. So all those developers have to buy into our system before they add to it. Does that make sense, sort of? And in reference, I'll go back to the rate structure. The capacity fee that, if you're building a house or a developer is building a number of houses, that's where we have some flexibility in the billing structure. Could be based on square footage, could be based on fixture counts, number of bathrooms, kitchens, and so on. So that's where we have some more flexibility. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Good evening, Alex Miller, Seaside resident. And Mr. Paul, you are one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid executive at a public agency on the Monterey Peninsula and in the Monterey County. Now you're asking us to pay an extra 8%. Will you take an 8% in your salary?
Will I take an 8%?
Reduce your salary by 8% if you're trying to increase our dues by 8%?
Well, I report to a board that sets my salary. So if the board were to ask that or try to negotiate with me, that's certainly something they could do. Not that it's pertinent to this discussion, but the salaries at the agency are based on comparables, and we try to set at the median level of all of our comparables so we can attract, recruit, and retain people. So I did not know that I was one of the highest or whatever you mentioned, but
recently the agency put on a campaign to put our bills onto our property tax. How much money did the agency spend on that campaign?
That is a great question. Oh, let me get you this in a second. But first, so yes, we did. And for those of you that don't know, last year, year and a half ago now, 2 years ago, we were trying to move from the bills that Mr. Miller has sitting in front of him to putting our rates, our fees on the property tax rolls, thereby not having to send bills out and saving, frankly, a lot of administrative money. That did not pass. But as part of that process, our board did request that we do a fair amount of outreach. So much of the costs had to do with outreach, the 12 public meetings we held, not unlike this, throughout our service area. So there was absolutely a cost associated with it. Do you have any idea of ballpark?
Yeah, I'll give you just kind of a couple ballparks. So an event like this, which we held 12 of them throughout that process, actually doesn't cost us much. What costs us a lot is promoting these. And so that one of the primary modes we use to communicate, because we don't collect your emails, right? We don't have an online billing system. One of our primary methods of communicating with you is through your bill or through the mail. And so postage, print, not so much printing, but postage is one of our number one cost drivers in that campaign. And so I would probably ballpark it around 100,000, because again, something like this event itself, I mean, costs less than $100 to host, right? But it's that promoting, and we have 63,000 customers. So,
And how much money would it have saved administratively if the bills would have gone onto the tax roll, like you just said?
yeah, so so the question was related to, if we'd moved to the tax roll, what were the administrative savings? And you have to kind of unpack that one in a couple of different ways. So straight administrative savings were estimated at about $400,000 a year, but we anticipated, because we would adjust staff to increase field inspections. So on our commercial properties, let's just say somebody says that it's a restaurant, but then it turns over in a shopping complex, and now it's a clothing store. If they don't notify us, we don't know about that change. So we do something called field inspections, where we go out and we confirm commercial activity. And so there was also a component of this where we were going to adjust and make a more robust equity program for commercial billing to make sure that we were truing that up. And so there was anticipated increased revenue from that process. So straight up savings was estimated at about 400,000, but then an additional potential for increased revenue was going to increase it, was anticipated to increase the total benefit.
And this is my last question. And Mr. Scudo's, one of his remarks, he said that we could not bill per square foot or bill per usage because of a court case. Could you kindly please cite that case in which court made that ruling?
I cannot cite that course,
But you
but
cite in court cases, Paul. So which case is it?
I was saying, generally speaking, it is not legally defensible in California. If you would like that, we can find that information for you.
And just to clarify, he didn't say it based on a usage-based model. He was referencing it for fixture count and square footage. Those two.
Don't know. I can find it for you though. On the tax roll thing, I just wanted to point out, yes, there was a savings, but there were other issues out there. So I wanted everyone to be aware. Our board directed us to move forward with that outreach and try to get done. It's a little strange, but that particular issue falls under California Water Code, Health and Safety Code. We fall under California Water Code, but that issue is Health and Safety Code, which requires a supermajority to pass. So in an unusual circumstance, we didn't get the 2/3, and it was based on what is known as a weighted vote for our board. Whereas there's 10 members, everyone has a vote, unless a weighted vote is called for, then it's based on population. So Salinas, for instance, has the most votes. Seaside, Marina Coast, Monterey have 3 votes, and so on down the line. And frankly, if you had additional questions, I did want to introduce Alexis, who is on our board and is on the Seaside City Council, and can speak to that from the board discussion level if you would like. Oh, would you like to?
And thank you so much, Rachel, for mentioning the outreach, and Paul for that. It was very important for us as a board to have outreach be conducted. That's why the board decided to spend that money to conduct the outreach and get the feedback from the constituency. And just speaking from the city of Seaside, constituents did not want the sewage fee to go on the property tax. If I'm not mistaken, Councilmember Miller, you also were not in favor of it going onto the property tax. So I answered your question. Sorry, I'm speaking. So what we did was, as a city, Salinas and Seaside used our weighted vote to not make sure that the sewage fee would go on the property taxes.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. First one, it didn't mention anywhere that was video participation possible. Didn't say anywhere.
Oh,
said
for this meeting?
It doesn't say it. Why not? Now you're saying you have this invitation. See? You told me where it's at.
There were multiple, so.
No, but where is the video conferencing option mentioned?
Well, we'll definitely check it out. We had multiple different versions of this.
It's doesn't look like it's on there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was really surprised if we missed that one. It's right here. Participate virtually. Is that?
Yeah, but where?
Oh, MontereyOneWater.org
Yeah.
/rates.
Yeah, that's how you access the Zoom. Yeah, or through this QR code here. Yeah, it really made me nervous there.
Yeah, because I didn't read that as a video conference.
Yeah. You know what? Well, but that's a good point. We could always add, participate virtually via Zoom or whatever that might trigger things in the future. Good point. The QR codes are, yeah, it's a QR code. Sorry. Yeah, but we could probably add a word or two to make it clear.
Okay, I moved here 23 years ago from other areas where. Oops.
Oh,
I don't know if
the
it doesn't
microphone
work.
is only for online, so it's just we need to project.
Oh.
Sorry, I'll try to repeat.
I'll try now.
Yeah, go ahead.
I moved here at the beginning of Seaside Islands 23 years ago. From where I came, we didn't have this type of bills because it was automatically deducted from the use of water. They deducted the sewer cost from what you use as a house in water. I proposed that several years ago at one of your board meetings, but I guess it got capped there. The other thing is, I came to this area, driving down from Windhorse Highway 1. I can always tell where your pump station is because of the terrible sewer smell. And that's not a healthy issue. I don't know if you don't know that, but I've been in your meetings over 12 years to complain about it. I called the engineer and I met happily one of your engineers at the Giant City plant, by the way. Then I called him and said, that's not ours. But the engineer I met right there personally, he told me, yeah, just add a little more sulfur and the smell will go away. So how much would it cost you to add sulfur to the system? Because it binds all the sulfur containing smelly stuff. Stop this from happening.
Okay, so Jose, Matt, can you just talk in general about pump stations and odors and how we try to address them, particularly with some of these upgrades we're doing, whether that be sulfur or others?
Yeah, I'll start with what I think will be the core solution. This sewage pumping system was sized for a much bigger community. So what sometimes happens is sewage flows during the day, and when people are sleeping in the middle of the night, it could just sort of settle out in these pump stations, and the pumps just stop. And that allows the sewage to age and create that odorous sewer gas. One of the solutions that we're planning is that some of our pump stations where this is happening is to actually put in smaller sized pumps so that we continue to move the wastewater throughout the night and prevent that septicity issue that you're referring to. The second thing that we do is we use a chemical called ferric chloride, which helps to bind up the hydrogen sulfide with that rotten egg smell that you smell in sewer gas. And we already do that at pump stations like the Salinas pump station and is it Monterey? And we also do it at the Monterey pump station because that's the one that feeds into what we call the Seaside, what you call the Sand City pump station. So we are already doing it. Yeah. And one of the things the operators are doing is they're paying attention to when we have odor nuisance issues like that, and they're adjusting the dosing of the ferric chloride to keep that down. So we already have an ongoing expense for ferric chloride. We have the systems to put it into the system. I don't think it would be much additional cost. It's already happening, is what I'm saying.
So currently the budget for, we call it the hydrogen sulfide control, which is essentially odor control. We budget about 1.2 million, and that's for covering the cost of the ferric at the 2 pump station. And then we add hydrogen peroxide a little bit outside of our facility to regenerate the iron, which binds to the sulfides. We work with US peroxide to monitor. So we have certain thresholds we try to establish. And again, trying to be fiscally responsible, we try and not go too far in the direction where we're overcorrecting. But I mean, maybe another 500,000 just in chemical. We could add additional infrastructure where we dose at different pump stations so that it's a more collective approach. Right now, we do the larger pump stations. In addition to all the things Matt mentioned, also some of the smaller stations have a carbon-based media with an odor scrubber to help prevent that. I mean, I do encourage anytime you're anywhere in our service area, if there's an odor, you can't reach our facility, reach the air board. I get all the emails and we investigate. We don't take it lightly because it is probably the biggest nuisance we can produce is odor. So it is something we take very serious.
Smell. Especially when we have westerly winds.
So there are, at each of the pump stations, we have signs with our number to call. So it's the plant number that you probably saw. Okay. Okay.
Did you sign in today? Okay. How about we do some follow-up with
Yeah.
you?
Can we
How do you feel
follow
about
up with
that?
you?
Is
Let's
that
track
okay?
this down?
Right, this plant down there.
Yeah.
When you go there, park your car, it's what sulfur from the. We drive further down, and I don't even see your transfer plant. I know there must be one because I get the smell. If I go into the harbor area, I can smell it, and so on, so on. So just it's always there.
So we will certainly follow up with you. If we've received calls and haven't responded, we will correct that. Absolutely. What was your name again? Other questions? Okay.
And I'm just going to remind while we prepare for this next question in the room, I'm going to remind any online participants that if you'd like to submit a question in the Q&A, please do so and we will address it.
Yeah, so this may be off the subject, but I've been incensed about this for, ever since I returned to my home. I bought my home in Seaside in 1980, and I have Seaside Water, which was to 600 families. This may be not someplace, something you can address, but we got our water from wells, and my understanding that in the interim, between the time I left and the time I returned in 2022, this Seaside Aquifer wastewater injection project, is that what this is about as well?
Well, actually, can we actually take a quick moment to clarify on that?
Yeah,
Yeah, so thank you.
because I get confused between the two waters.
Yeah. Yeah. You want me to go first, and then I think you should keep taking it. So tonight we're talking about proposed rates for wastewater. So
Right.
we are Monterey One Water. That's our organization. And we were formed to assist with sewer system management, specifically bringing regional efficiencies. And so the rates tonight only cover wastewater service. So that's conveying through big pipes your used water to us and treating it to a level that is safe to discharge into the ocean. You are absolutely correct that our agency is more than just a wastewater agency, and that our mission is around maximizing water resources and the value in wastewater. And so we do have 2 recycled water projects, one that supports agricultural irrigation and one that helps replenish the Seaside groundwater basin, which helps serve drinking water to communities like Carmel through elements of Seaside, basically along the coast there. And those funds are all kept separately. So recycled water does not support wastewater. Wastewater doesn't support recycled water. And you can think of it like this. We actually keep the funds in basically like almost like separate bank accounts. They're called enterprise funds, but we keep them completely isolated from one another. But I think you're going to go on to ask a little bit more recycled water related. And
Yeah.
So to your question, yes, we have what is called an indirect potable reuse project, which is recycling wastewater, purifying it to a level that meets all state standards for drinking water. That is injected in a series of 6 wells that, if you're on General Jim Moore and you look up heading that way, you're where?
I live in Juarez, which is one street off the San Pablo exit. And I was part of Seaside Water, which we have our own wells.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do I still have a well water system, or is it being polluted by this recycled wastewater situation? That's my biggest question.
I'm just looking up where Juarez is.
Yeah, yeah. If you take the San Pablo gate and go first right is Juarez.
No, so I will actually jump into this. So first of all, the water that we're injecting is highly purified. It goes through ozone, membrane filtration, reverse osmosis, advanced oxidation, and UV. When it comes out, it is frankly too pure to put into the ground. And we have to add minerals to it, calcium and other things. So I certainly wouldn't phrase it as it contaminates anything. It's cleaner than most water on the planet. And it certainly meets the indirect potable reuse regulations that the state of California has put out there. Now, if I'm looking at Juarez Street properly, is that about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
it's just out the San Pablo.
Yeah. So our wells are to the northeast of you where we're injecting.
That facility there, but I'm wondering, are my Seaside Water wells communicating with this aquifer? Because I do not believe that you can extract the drugs and all the crap people throw down their toilets and everything from the water. I loved my pure water. It tasted 10 times better than the groundwater from Cal-Am. And in response, I put in a solar system so I have the energy to distill all my water because I don't want to drink recycled piss water. And I'm afraid that, you know, this is being touted as going to, you know, make loads of water available forever. And I just don't want to drink recycled piss water. So I'm wondering, are my wells being, in other words, is Seaside water been extracting the water from the aquifer?
So the aquifers are absolutely connected with where we're injecting. In terms of the wells, you talk about the zone of influence because you have this hole in the ground, you're sucking water out. I don't know if there is connectivity between our injection wells and Seaside County Sanitation Districts or Seaside Water wells, but the aquifers themselves are connected.
Yeah.
And I understand, and because I've spoke to enough people, just the yuck factor surrounding this. But in terms of, we would love to have you come out for a demo, to look at our demo, to educate yourself, or we can, on the process. It truly is amazing, the stuff that we throw down the toilet, whether it be pharmaceuticals or even those forever chemicals that have been in the newspaper on those perfluorinated compounds. Our treatment system takes all of that out.
Down the toilet, and it's like
the treatment system takes everything out. Yep.
And you know, we're already getting hormones in our water just from plastics and so forth and so on. So it's like when I came back and found this scheme was going on, I'm like, who the heck passed this? You know, personally, I think we should have had a desalination plant in 1980 or 90 when PG&E went out. But I am very suspicious about this, and I've gone to great expense to even put a solar in so that I can distill my own water. Because then I know that I've left behind, you know, the hormones and the drugs and the pollutants. So, yeah.
So there is connectivity. I don't know if you're actually receiving the water, but we can certainly send you our test results and all that stuff.
How can I find out if these aquifers are communicating?
Why don't you? Oh, yeah. You want to chime into this? And then actually, what can you give her your contact info?
And we're in the middle right now of preparing the annual Pure Water Monterey report, which summarizes all of the data that we collect for the previous calendar year that demonstrates the influent water quality that we monitor all the way through the treatment process to purified water and then the groundwater monitoring wells. So if any of you are interested in seeing a copy of that, go ahead and see me. I'll stay at the back here. I'll collect your information and we can email you a link when that's posted. In terms of the recharge water migration, we have run a couple of tracer studies with the Water Management District. Yeah. Right. So we have a series of injection wells that we basically take an approved dye from the Regional Water Board, inject it, and then we track those particles over time to verify where that water is going and how long it takes to get there. We work alongside the hydrogeologists with the Water Management District to make inferences and talk about the water quality trends. That information is also included in that annual report. I think you might find useful to answer your question. But the Water Management District are the hydrogeologists that we work closely with.
Seaside water, until recently, do a pretty thorough report. I haven't received one in the last couple of years, and Seaside in general seems to be somewhat of a disarray generally. So I'm a little bit verklempt about, you know, what's going on, and then everybody seems to be driving around in shiny new vehicles and all this, and yes, they're posing these fees and fees and fees and fees instead of saying, what's wrong with having a budget and not going over it, and maybe cutting your salary and all the management and the bureaucracy and the this and the that. This is become a real mushroom problem in California in general, and I object. I'm going through 40 years of my records, moving back into my house, and my water bill, Seaside water, used to be like $6, and now it's 58. And it's like, I don't see any greater benefit in it's hard to sell that we just keep paying more and more. Sorry, that we just keep paying more and more for utilities, and where's it going? I see shiny new trucks, and I see logos, and I see, now it's two people managing the water, and what's the difference between pure water and Monterey One water? I know I have to go to a different place to pay my bill, or it's just growing, and I'm not sure the benefit is being received by the people. So that's one reason why I'm here. I don't want to be drinking recycled piss water. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll hang around at the back here. As you leave, I'll hand you a card so you'll have my direct contact information, and we'll make sure that annual report summarizing the water quality data is sent to you when it's posted. My name's Sarah Stevens. Sarah Stevens.
Okay.
Great.
All right, Paul, we have a question from Carlos online. Why not explore alternative pricing models? Instead of increasing rates for everyday residents, we should raise fees for commercial, restaurant, and agricultural sectors. Alternatively, we could adopt a usage-based model that targets high-volume water consumers.
So, hey, Carlos. As I understand, the question is, could we look at other models to shift costs from residential to commercial, ag, and others? And then the second part of it was a usage based on for use of water. So in terms of shifting the responsibility or the costs from residences to commercial or other sectors, we are limited from being as a public agency to not have one customer class subsidize another. There needs to be equity in terms of how the costs are distributed and have it be equitable from a wastewater perspective on strength of wastewater on a commercial side of things or ag component, as well as flows and other constituents. And that's something that the rate consultant did in making sure that it was balanced between all of our customer classes. So unfortunately, that is not open to us as a public utility. There are other ways within private utilities that are governed by the CPUC that have more flexibility on things like that. In terms of basing our rates on usage, it is frankly something we've heard from a number of customers. And as the wastewater entity for 285,000 people, like I said, mentioned it going from Moss Landing through the Salinas Valley and the peninsula, there are no fewer than 6 water purveyors that we would need to get all their data in to understand what individual uses are to then structure our rates. And we've hit a brick wall in trying to access that information. So our board did vote to maintain the fixed rate structure for this time frame. We're hearing it loud and clear. People that are single person in a house, low usage, etc. And we're going to continue fighting that and trying to see how we can get that data in a usable format So our customer service department can actually calculate the bills and get them out in some way.
And as a reminder, we are
It is, and it's also private companies and agencies. It's a combination. So you understand the privacy issues. Understood.
And we are committed to that. We will continue to work with our partners. In the meantime, what we feel we can do as staff is we're bringing to our board this month a program that would be a low use program. So if you are somebody who is a low use or a low flow water user, if that's your household, then you will have the ability to submit your water bill and get enroll in this program that would modify your bill to reflect that. The one thing I do just caution, and I want to remind everybody, is that especially in wastewater, where we are legally not allowed to turn off wastewater service. So unlike water or power, where you don't pay your bill, they'll turn off your service. We cannot, because we are governed, as Paul said, through health and safety, right? There's a health hazard to us not providing the service. Because of that, and Matt can probably get into more detail, or even Paul, both are engineers, a lot of our costs are fixed costs. So the majority of your bill is not based on how much water you put down the system. So we do hear you. We have a proposal to our board. We are going to recommend that they implement this program. I just want to, in full transparency, do know that majority of your bill is fixed. And it doesn't matter how much you put down, because we have to always be ready for whether it's 1 gallon going down or whether it's 100 gallons going down in a day. We have to be ready by law.
And when you say
watch for that, we'll have a comms plan on it, and you can even come to the board meeting and advocate for the program Monday, June 29th, 2026 at 6 p.m.
And that would be called what?
We're still working on a title. Actually, if you have any ideas that helps accurately communicate it, we were brainstorming this morning. We got low flow water user program. We got low water usage program. We had you liked low water
usage.
Low water usage program. Okay. We had low something variance. What was the one last night? Low flow variance.
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay, so we're playing with we're trying to figure out what's really clear and demonstrates to the public that we want to implement this program. And if you are somebody who is, has 1-2 people, and you have, or you know what, maybe you have more people, but you're exceptionally efficient with your water, right?
I'm still doing, if it's yellow, it's mellow. If it's down, flush it down.
Hey, I got that to my kids too.
I'm still doing that. Yes. So I try to be very parsimonious with my impact on the planet in many ways.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah. Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yes, and that's
we are limited, but we are trying to work within the framework that we
and that's
can.
exactly why we're trying to do this.
Yeah. Another one?
Oh, hey, one more over here.
Issue. Marina Coast Water a couple of years ago already tried to, what do they call it? Wastewater piece that they have.
Oh yeah, they have their
according to the usage. So if you use during the winter months that little water, that spaces and this.
So that would be for Marina Coast. It would be for their portion of the wastewater bill. Yeah, I can see them. Yes. Correct. So the question was, you have to pay to Marina Coast as well as us, or to Seaside County Sanitation District as well as us. our member entities, which we have 10 members, take care of the collection system from your house to the main. And then when it gets to our pump stations, we take care of the mileage of force mains and pump stations and all that stuff. So there's a separation of service. Was there something else online?
So there was a little bit of a follow-up on, but if we don't consume that much water, how can we be in this tier? So just to clarify, when we start talking tiers, I just want to clarify, we are the wastewater entity, so we are not the water purveyor. We don't deliver drinking water or fresh water to your home. We collect the used water, so there's no tiers within our system. But we are having conversations about how, if you are somebody who doesn't use a lot of water, how that impacts your wastewater bill. And I encourage you to keep following along. So thank you for joining from home. Keep following along and watch for us to bring forward this low use, what do we decide? Low water usage program that we're going to bring before our board later this month.
Any other questions? If not, we will still be here. And actually, I think people are going to go to their respective boards if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask or see what we have. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you all in person and thank you online as well.